Have you ever sat in your living room on a quiet Sunday afternoon, watching the phone that never rings, wondering when you became invisible to the people you raised and loved with everything you had? It's 3 o'clock, and the house feels enormous around you. The grandchildren you once rocked to sleep are now teenagers absorbed in worlds you don't understand. Your adult children call occasionally, but their voices carry the weight of their own struggles, their own busy lives that seem to have no room for the person who once made everything possible for them. You tell yourself it's normal, that this is just how life works, but deep down, in those long evening hours, you feel something you never thought you'd feel about your own family. You feel forgotten. Here's the truth nobody talks about openly. Millions of seniors today are discovering that the family they devoted their lives to simply cannot be the foundation for their happiness, their santé, ou leur paix d'esprit dans leurs années futures. But what if I told you that this painful realization could actually become the doorway to the most empowering chapter of your life? In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you 5 powerful pillars that can give you back your sense of control, your inner strength, and yes, even your joy, regardless of how often that phone rings. You wake up at 3 in the morning, and the silence in your bedroom feels heavier than the blanket covering you. Your mind immediately goes to that familiar place, the one where you count the days since your daughter called, or wonder if your son even remembers your birthday is next month. The darkness seems to amplify every creak in the house, every distant sound from the street, reminding you that you're here, alone, while the world sleeps peacefully around you. This isn't the loneliness of your younger years when being alone meant freedom and possibility. This is different. This is the slow, creeping realization that the people you poured your life into, the children you stayed up with during fevers and nightmares, now have their own fevers and nightmares to tend to. And you're not part of that equation anymore. But here's what 30 years of working with families has taught me. This moment, this painful recognition, isn't your failure. It's not even their failure. It's simply life moving the way life moves. Your children are drowning in mortgages, work demands, and raising their own kids. Your friends are dealing with their own health scares, or they've moved to be closer to their families, or worse, they're no longer here at all. The turning point comes when you stop waiting for the phone to ring and start asking yourself a different question. Instead of, why don't they call? You ask, what can I control right now in this moment to feel less alone? Because loneliness, I've discovered, isn't really about being alone. It's about feeling powerless. And powerlessness is something you can change, starting today. Pilar 1. Mobilité physique. Vos jambes se sentent différentes que ce qu'elles étaient il y a 5 ans. Maybe c'est la rigidité quand vous vous levez pour la première fois, ou la façon dont vous devez réfléchir 2 fois avant de monter sur un trottoir. You've started reaching for walls and furniture more often, not because you're falling, but because your body whispers warnings you never used to hear. The cruel truth is that our culture has taught us that physical decline is as natural as gray hair. We've been programmed to expect weakness, to accept it as dignity's price. But I've seen too many patients lose their independence not because of age, but because they stopped moving when their bodies needed movement most. Let me tell you about Arthur. À 78 ans, il utilise une canne et souffre d'arthrite aux 2 genoux. Every morning at 7:30, he walks 4 blocks to the corner store and back. Pluie ou soleil? His neighbors think he's stubborn. I think he's brilliant. Because Arthur understands something most people don't. Movement isn't about being athletic. It's about staying in charge of your own life. When you stop moving, your muscles don't just get weak. They forget how to work together. Your balance becomes unreliable. Your bones become fragile. But when you walk, even slowly, even with help, you're sending a message to every cell in your body that says, we're not done yet. Start with 10 minutes. That's all. 10 minutes de marche n'importe où, de n'importe quelle façon votre corps vous permet. Walk to the mailbox. Walk around your living room if that's what you can manage. Because every step you take is a declaration of independence that no family member, no matter how loving, can give you. Pilar 2. Simplicité financière. Le tas de factures sur votre table de cuisine semble s'élever de plus en plus chaque mois. État de carte de crédit avec des charges que vous ne vous souvenez d'avoir faites. Subscription service that seemed like a good idea 6 months ago. insurance policies with terms that change every time you receive a new packet in the mail. And somewhere in the middle of sorting through it all, you feel your chest tighten and your breathing get shallow. Money stress doesn't just live in your wallet, it lives in your sleep. It lives in the tension between your shoulder blades. It lives in the way you catch yourself staring at prices in the grocery store, calculating and recalculating, wondering if you're one unexpected expense away from having to ask for help you're not ready to ask for. Carole connaît ce sentiment bien. À 74 ans, après la mort de son mari, elle se retrouva noyée dans les papiers financiers qui semblaient conçus pour confondre plutôt que d'expliquer. She had 17 different accounts scattered across 6 banks. She was paying for services she'd forgotten she'd signed up for. The complexity wasn't just costing her money, it was stealing her peace of mind. The day Carol decided to simplify everything changed her life. She closed unnecessary accounts. She canceled subscriptions she never used. She moved everything to one bank where she knew the teller's name. The result wasn't just financial, it was emotional. For the first time in months, she slept through the night. Financial simplicity isn't about having more money. It's about having fewer complications. Start small. Cancel one abonnement que vous n'avez pas besoin. Combinez les comptes si vous le pouvez. Because every step toward simplicity is a step toward the kind of peace that money itself can't buy. Pilar 3, routine d'hygiène. Consistance. Le miroir de la salle de bain reflète quelqu'un que vous ne reconnaissez parfois pas. Maybe it's the way your skin looks different in the morning light, or how taking your medications has become a daily negotiation instead of a simple routine. You find yourself wondering when your body became something you have to manage rather than something that just works. After 70, your body's margin for error gets smaller. Miss your blood pressure medication for 2 jours et vos chiffres montent en flèche. Skip your morning stretches for a week, and your back reminds you why you started them in the first place. Forget to drink enough water, and everything from your energy to your thinking feels cloudy. Walter figured this out at 81. Every morning at 6, he makes his tea. Then he does his chair stretches, takes his medications, and walks to the end of his driveway. À 6h30, il a accompli 4 choses qui le maintiennent stable, en bonne santé et sous contrôle. He doesn't negotiate with himself about it. He doesn't wait until he feels like it. He just does it, the same way he used to brush his teeth before bed. The magic of a health routine isn't in the individual activities. It's in the consistency. It's in creating a daily rhythm that your body can count on. When you take care of your health proactively instead of reactively, you're not just maintaining your physical condition, you're maintaining your autonomy. Choose une petite habitude de santé que tu peux faire tous les jours. Take your vitamins with breakfast. 5 minutes de stretching avant de lire le journal du matin. Drink a full glass of water when you wake up, because consistency in small things creates stability in big things, and stability is the foundation of independence. Pilar 4. Résilience émotionnelle. La peine vous frappe aux moments les plus étranges. Maybe it's while you're folding laundry and you find a shirt that belongs to someone who's no longer here. Or you're watching a movie and suddenly you're crying about something that happened 15 years ago. You feel embarrassed by these moments, as if emotional pain should have an expiration date, as if healing should follow a schedule. Emotional resilience n'est pas l'absence de douleur. It's about feeling it without letting it define you. It's about being able to say, this is sadness instead of, I am sad. It's the difference between drowning in an emotion and swimming through it. Margaret learned this lesson the hard way. À 77 ans, après avoir perdu son mari de 52 ans, elle a passé des mois à essayer d'être forte pour tout le monde. She smiled at the grocery store. She insisted she was fine when neighbors called. She pushed down every wave of grief until she could barely breathe under the weight of unfelt feelings. Now, every evening at 8, Margaret lights a candle and allows herself to feel whatever needs to be felt. Some nights it's sadness. Some nights it's anger. Some nights it's gratitude for all the years she had. She doesn't judge the feelings or try to fix them. She just acknowledges them, honors them, and then blows out the candle and goes to bed. Emotional resilience is like a muscle. It grows stronger with practice. When difficult feelings arise, don't run from them. Name them. C'est l'ennui. C'est la peur. C'est la tristesse. Because when you can name something, you can manage it. And when you can manage your emotions, you can manage your life. Pillar 5. Code de valeur personnelle. Qui êtes-vous quand personne ne vous regarde? When the roles of parent, employee, spouse, or caregiver have shifted or ended, what defines you? This question haunts more seniors than you might imagine, because so much of our identity gets tied to what we do for others rather than who we are in our core. Without a personal code, you drift. You find yourself seeking approval from people whose opinions shouldn't matter. You make decisions based on what you think others expect rather than what aligns with your deepest values. You become a stranger to yourself, living someone else's version of who you should be. Robert a découvert cela à 82 ans. Après sa retraite, après que ses enfants se soient éloignés, après que son cercle social soit devenu plus petit, il s'est rendu compte qu'il prenait des décisions basées sur des schémas anciens qui ne lui servaient plus. So he sat down one afternoon and wrote 5 simple rules that would guide the rest of his life. Speak truth, but gently. Don't waste food. Return things better than you received them. Forgive quickly. End each day at peace with yourself. These aren't complicated philosophical principles. They're practical guidelines that help Robert make decisions large and small. Should he tell his neighbor about the loud music? Speak truth, but gently. Should he buy that expensive gadget he doesn't really need? Don't waste. Should he hold on to resentment about his daughter's last visit? Forgive quickly. Your personal code doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It just has to be yours. Write down 3 règles que vous voulez vivre. Make them simple enough to remember and specific enough to guide you. Because when you know who you are and what you stand for, you don't need external validation to feel valuable. Arthur marche tous les matins avec sa canne. Carole a simplifié ses finances et dort paisiblement maintenant. Walter suit son routine de santé sans négociation. Margaret lights her candle and honors her feelings. Robert vit selon ses 5 règles. None of them waited for permission. None of them waited for help. None of them waited for their families to provide what they needed most. These aren't stories of people who had perfect families or perfect health or perfect circumstances. These are stories of people who decided that their peace, their stability, their sense of worth would come from practices they could control rather than people they couldn't control. The common thread isn't what they did. It's that they did something. They took action. They created structure. They built habits that supported their well-being regardless of who called or visited or remembered their birthday. This is what real support looks like in later life. Not the promise of others, but the daily practices you can count on. Not the hope that someone else will make you feel valuable, but the actions you take that prove your value to yourself. Your strength doesn't come from having people around you. It comes from having practices that ground you, routines that stabilize you, values that guide you, and the emotional tools to navigate whatever comes your way. This is the foundation that no one can take away from you. Right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can close this video and go back to waiting for life to change around you, or you can choose one small action that puts you back in the driver's seat of your own experience. Maybe it's committing to that Dick's Minutes daily walk, even if you start by walking to the end of your driveway. Maybe it's calling your bank tomorrow to close that account you never use. Maybe it's writing down 3 valeurs personnelles qui guideront vos décisions à partir de maintenant. Maybe it's simply acknowledging that the sadness you've been carrying has a name and deserves to be felt. The action doesn't have to be big. It just has to be yours. It has to be something you choose, something you commit to, something you do regardless of whether anyone notices or approves or understands. Because here's what I've learned after 30 ans de regarder les gens naviguer les défis du vieillissement. The ones who thrive aren't the ones with the most family support or the most money or the best health. They're the ones who take responsibility for their own well-being, who create their own structure, who build their own foundation of daily practices that no one can take away. Your happiness, your health, your peace, they're not waiting for you somewhere else. They're not dependent on other people's choices or circumstances you can't control. They're available right now in the next decision you make, in the next action you take, in the next moment you choose to be the author of your own story rather than a character in someone else's. The phone may not ring as often as it used to. The house may feel quieter than you remember, but you are not powerless. You never were. Today, vous avez découvert quelque chose qui change tout. Your happiness doesn't depend on your children's schedules. Your health doesn't depend on other people's attention. Your peace doesn't depend on anyone else's choices. It depends on yours. Arthur marche tous les matins parce qu'il a décidé que son indépendance comptait plus que son arthrite. Carole dort à l'aise parce qu'elle a choisi la simplicité plutôt que la complexité. Walter starts each day with purpose because he created his own structure. Margaret honors her grief because she learned that feeling emotions is stronger than fighting them. Robert vit avec dignité parce qu'il a écrit ses propres règles. These aren't extraordinary people. They're people like you who reached a moment of decision. They could keep waiting for life to happen to them, or they could start happening to life. When you take that first walk tomorrow morning, you're not just moving your body, you're reclaiming your power. When you simplify one part of your finances, you're not just organizing papers, you're choosing peace over chaos. When you establish a routine, honor your feelings, or live by your values, you're building something no one can take away from you. Your foundation, your strength, your choice. Which of these 5 pillars spoke to your heart today? Which one are you ready to build first? Partagez-le en commentaire ci-dessous. Your story might be exactly what another person needs to hear. And if this message helped you see your situation differently, please share it with someone else who might be sitting in their own quiet living room, wondering if they matter anymore. They do. You do. We all do. I'll see you in the next video where we'll talk about turning your greatest life challenges into your most powerful advantages.